ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to my channel, and we are here for another paranormal story time video. I am back in my same old official setup, and it is different this time because now I am more comfortable here due to the fact that this seat has cushions, really cute autumn colored cushions, and yeah, it doesn't really hurt to record here anymore. I am more comfortable chilling here and talking to you guys. It is the last paranormal storytime video for October, meaning this series is not officially over on this channel. I don't think it'll ever be over. I mean, who knows? It will not be as consistent as it was for October, so it'll be more random when I do these kind of videos. Also because I really like to switch it up, and I've strayed from doing makeup, which I am going to get back into, but there's a lot of other things I really want to do. Halloween is just around the corner in several days. Actually, it is less than a week away, and the end of that week will already be November, so this will have to be the last video for October. I'm not even going to try and get off topic here. Let's just jump into this video. Where we last left off, I had introduced you guys to the house that I had lived in earlier this year and last year, and I began to tell you the little things that started occurring while I was living in this house. Now, it would make much more sense if you guys were to watch my last video, part 1, and then the rest of this is going to make much more sense, so I'm probably going to leave it right here, that little thing that goes bloop, like that. From this last video, things are definitely going to get on the terrifying side. This part of my story in this house is definitely 10 times worse than the first things that I have begun to experience. It was one afternoon. It was around 4 in the afternoon. It was really bright and sunny outside, and I had a lot of anxiety. I don't know why. It was really weird. I don't usually get anxiety for no reason. Maybe sometimes I can overthink, but there's usually something that has to cause my anxiety. So it was 4 in the afternoon. It was daylight, nothing scary about that. When I have anxiety, one thing that I do is I pace back and forth. I don't know if that's weird to you guys, or you guys do that too, or you know what I'm talking about. I learned that walking is actually a form of meditation. It is also exercise, so it is 2 in 1. Actually, walking does a lot for you. But I do that wherever I am living or whatever, like in the hallways. Now, this isn't something I just like thought, oh hey, I'm gonna walk back and forth and see if it helps. I just do it. It is my instant reaction when I am feeling nervous or something like that. I will go all around the house, which is what I was doing this afternoon. And it's just so weird. I don't understand why I had anxiety for no reason. Then, as I am walking away from the main hallway where the main restroom is at, I am walking towards the living room. So I feel heavier and heavier, and when I get to the living room, I turned back to walk the other way, and when I turned back, I saw what is, I guess you can say, the apparition of an old lady. The old lady is explained in my part 1 of this video. I didn't see her like in every detail or whatever. To me, this was an outline of her, She was almost my height, but a little bit shorter, so around here. And I could kind of make her out, and this has only happened to me one other time, which you guys will hear in another video. But I had never experienced anything like this. I had told you guys about the black shadow I've seen, but this was completely different. This was just a very faint image of her. I can't really explain that either. I'm sure there's many people who have seen similar things, but I have never seen dead on a detailed ghost or clear as day. She wasn't as clear as day, even though it was bright outside. This lady was in my hallway. It was just a figure. That scared the living crap out of me, and right away I messaged one of my friends, which this friend wasn't really sincere or empathetic. This friend just told me, don't pay attention to it or whatever. I mean, that wasn't really comforting to me. I was just like, well, I'm in the house right now with this ghost, and I saw it. I saw her, and it was pretty scary because I have never seen anything like that. So then I am so freaked out that I really don't know where to go but the brightest part of the house. I mean, I'm not going to go run and sit in a really dark room or a dark corner and be scared there. I'm going to go to where the sun is shining most, which is the kitchen that had screen doors to the backyard, and all the sunlight was just going in there. So that's where I went. I sat at the table in the middle of the kitchen, and I just kind of sat there like this, tensed up and really nervous. And as I am sitting there, I began to experience a burn right here on my wrist. So if you guys know that when you grab your wrist really hard and you leave markings, if you guys can see how I grabbed myself and I left a mark like that. Well, I wasn't holding myself, like holding my arms. I was like, my hands were on the side of me, and I looked at my wrist, and right here a rash developed, and what looked like fingerprints, like a grip, like someone had went like this, had appeared on my wrist. At this point I was very much in shock, and that I could not explain. I mean, I do have anemia and I develop rashes, but this was not that kind of rash, because when I have anemia rashes, they're usually just red spots with a mild rash around them. But this was literally like part of my wrist was white from the outline of a hand grip, and all around it was just a red rash that was burning. Usually my anemia rashes don't burn. I'd have to say that is the most physical thing I have ever experienced from the paranormal. This automatically told me whatever it was, I do not think it was good. If it was, I'm not sure if anything friendly would actually do that to me. But then again, I could be wrong. Maybe this is just a ghost that wanted to be known. Definitely wanted to be known. But what I don't understand is when I physically am harmed and I develop a rash from an entity that wanted to grab me. After this, you know, there was just a couple of hard evidence things that said, yes, this place is super duper haunted. Without a doubt. There has been so many things up to that point that just say yes. And And it continued to get worse. So another person I'm going to talk about that experienced probably the most in this house was my sister. I only know of 2 that she had in that house, but I really feel like she was targeted by whatever was living in this house. I will tell you about her second experience at the end of this video because it is the last thing that ever happened in this house, and it was the worst. Her first intense experience, she had told me that one night she was asleep and she developed sleep paralysis. She had never had sleep paralysis before, and I know that because she asked me what it was, and she kind of had an idea, but she wanted to confirm with me that this is what it was. She had told me that the night before she was sleeping, she was half awake, half asleep, like any other sleep paralysis experience, and she actually felt something pushing her down, and that was on top of her, and she was trying to wake up, and she was very scared because my niece slept with her. I don't know if you guys knew, but my niece had problems sleeping alone in this house because of what her and my other niece have seen. So my older niece was always sleeping with her. And this she was very alarmed at. Of course, she was scared for the safety of my niece and whatever it was that was on top of her. And she woke up and nothing was there. The really weird part about this was that she had a glass of water like she always does. She wakes up every night to go get water, or she already has a glass in her room. She had a glass of water in her room, but on the other side of the room, nowhere near her, and my niece had not gotten up because she would have felt her. My niece was asleep, and no one had came into her room. So the water on the other side of the room was knocked down. She has no idea how or who could have done that. I did tell you guys that there has been several people that have had their several experiences, and this one shook me. This one really shook me because this comes from a person who is not a child and who can see things as clear as day. She has had experiences with seeing the paranormal very clearly from what she has told me her whole entire life. So she is one of those people who can see these things. This person was my younger cousin, and when I say younger, I just mean she's a little younger than me, but she's not a kid. She's a teenager. And so every now and then her family, meaning my aunt and my other little cousin, would come from another city close by, and they would come to stay in our house. And one of these times that she had came over, she invited her friend to our house, and they were hanging out there, and before her friend left, they were hanging out in my room, so we were all just chilling there, and it was time for him to go. So she walked him out, and I waited for them in the room, my room, and I was just kind of waiting for her to get back. She comes back into my room, and when she comes back, she has the most terrified looking face. She was on the verge of tears, and I am freaking out, and I'm like, oh my god, what happened? Did you guys get in a fight like that whole 3-5 minutes that you walked him out, or what happened? Like, you were only gone for so long. Like, what? So before she even spoke, she started crying. She was already on the verge of tears, and she started crying, and I started freaking out more. What happened? What's going on? She scared me. She scared me so much, and I started freaking out. And she took a moment to get herself together, and this is what she told me. She said that she was waving goodbye to her friend as he drove off, and she was turning back to walk into my house. Next to my front door is a long window. Oh my god, this still freaks me out to this day, the way she described it. But she said as she was walking back to walk into the house, the window right next to the door, she saw an old lady. But she did not just see any old lady. Apparently, this old lady did not have a very nice look on her face. In fact, it wasn't very humanly. And that's why she was crying, because she was very, very scared. Now, mind you guys, I hadn't told my cousin the experiences I had or anything like that. I'm not sure if she knew about all of the things that were going on, but yes, so I guess you can say she saw a lady, but a demonic lady, in the window as she walked in, and she felt very threatened. So she kind of walked fast into my room. That's why she was crying, and that freaked me out. That freaked me out so much, because I know one of the things that everyone has been seeing in the house is an old lady. Now I'm trying to think, could this be the old lady that passed away? Or is there something really, really bad that, I don't know, is taking over? And just when I think that night gets worse, mind you, this was only like 10 o'clock at night. She's really, really scared. She can't really shake it off that easily. And for the rest of that night, we're just doing things to get it off her mind. I'm trying to get it off my mind because this is where I live. And she was staying in my room. She was my roommate when she would come over, and she would sleep in there with me. And so I only had a really small bed. And when it was time to go to sleep, me and her kind of huddled on that bed. And she was looking towards the other wall, and I was looking at the wall right behind her. We were kind of facing each other and just talking. And then she begins to get that look on her face again. A really scary look on her face. And she's not looking directly at me. She was looking right behind me, right up, like above me, since I was laying down. She was looking right above me. And she starts like trembling and trying to talk. She's just like, Sarah, like she's freaking out, and I'm just like, oh my god. She's trying to tell me that she sees something, and I'm just like, no, hey, no, you don't look at anything, look at me, talk to me. And I'm trying to distract her. I'm starting to get mad anxiety, because that's scary. That's scary when someone's looking at something right behind my back in my room. And I'm just like, hey, ignore it, look at me. And I'm kind of getting a little bit, not mad, but I'm getting really concerned and really frantic, really anxious, because she's acting this way, and then because of what she's seeing, and because she begins to become terrified, and I'm someone who's trying to ignore it, so we're just kind of both freaking out. And then she says it, and she says, no, but there is a tall boy right behind you. And I am completely freaked out, and I kind of raise my voice at her to distract her, and I'm like, hey, stop, look at me. And I feel like I was trying to draw her attention to me so she notices that I'm worked up myself. And when I do kind of like raise my voice at her, and she looks at me like, oh, like she wants me to calm down and she's getting worked up herself. So she does, and I start talking about what's going on in her high school life, because teenagers have a lot to say about what's going on in their high school life. So that moment I distract her, and she gets a hold of herself, and she doesn't look over here, she's looking at me, and she begins to tell me about her gossip at the time or whatever. And we just kind of look at each other, pretend nothing's there, and talk it off. At this point in my stories, there has already been 6 different spirit sightings. A whole family, the old lady, this tall boy. My cousin does tell me that she sees shadows in my room, like several different ones walking around in there. Oh, how unsettling that information from her was. If you guys want to know a quick theory, I'm not confirming this, but I do have a theory. And I do believe there is some kind of spirit portal in that house. Even worse, in my room. Because this has been where the most activity has happened. And honestly, my room felt the heaviest. Before I had moved in there, there was a bunch of things that the family had collected, a bunch of old things. So it could also possibly be from their items, because there was very old items in this room. And one more thing about the room I forgot to mention, and this is actually very important. Anyone who's been in there can actually confirm this. Everyone can confirm this, because on the floor of my room was a very permanent and large rusty stain. The tile was very old. Nothing about this house was remodeled. So in that room, the stain was just huge and brownish. It was very rusty. I had talked to someone else about this, and they said it automatically blood. I actually had someone ask me a question about did I know any history about this house. I did not, because I do not have contact with that family. I felt it would be very rude to ask. I don't know. But I did try going online and looking up the history of it, and all I can tell you guys is that that house was built in the 70s. We are down to our last experience, or at least major experience, that I can remember in this house that had to do with my sister. So this was not even a year ago. I'd say like 10 months ago. And yeah, it was pretty recent, because I had just developed a relationship with my current boyfriend, and I remember specifically that night he wanted me to stay over. I wanted to stay over at his house, but I just really wanted to go home as well. It's nothing to do that I didn't want to be there with him. I just really wanted to go home. So he ended up taking me home really late, at 2 in the morning, I believe. And I got there, I think everybody else was home but asleep. So I went into my room and I began to get ready for bed because I was really tired. And before I could even fully undress, I hear my sister get up and go to the restroom. Nothing new. She got up late every night and went to the restroom or went to the kitchen to get water. This was her routine. So, okay, I heard her, and as I continued to get ready for bed, I just heard the biggest from the restroom. Something had hit the restroom door really hard, and of course it had to be her. She just went to the restroom. And I stalled for like 2 seconds to realize what was going on, or was there some kind of rational explanation for why that was going on. And automatically I came to my senses and said, no, something's wrong. That's not normal. So the restroom's really close by to my room. I go and I'm knocking on the door and I'm like, sister, hello. I'm not going to say her name because I'm protecting her privacy, but I'm like, sister, I'm knocking, and she's not answering me, you guys. She wasn't answering me, and I don't understand. So I try forcefully opening the door because there's just so many things wrong with that, and I couldn't open the door. So then I start banging on the door and I'm almost yelling for her to open the door, and then the knob slowly starts to turn and I expect to see her full on, but she is not standing up. She is on the ground as she's opening the door. So she's like this, opening the door, and she's looking at me, and I'm just like, are you okay? Why are you on the floor? What's wrong? And she's kind of like this, and she's still not answering me. And I'm just like, what the hell? Like, you're not saying anything. And then she looks up at me, and I think this is the part that freaked me out the most, was her eyes were completely dilated. Her eyes were big and black, dilated. And one of my first thoughts, but then I knew it couldn't be true, was, did she take something? Was she on drugs? But mind you, she does not do drugs. She doesn't do anything like that. In fact, I'm pretty 100% sure she hadn't even gone out that night because she worked the next day. All she does is drink, but she hadn't been drinking lately, so it didn't make sense. And what she tells me next is the cherry on top why I am convinced this was nothing medical. She looks at me with her big dilated eyes from the ground and says, Sarah, I don't feel like myself. So when she tells me that, I kind of just stutter like this. I get like that when I'm really worked up or anxious, and I'm just like, hold on, wait. And I run to my mom's room, and I go to my mom's room, and I'm like, Mom, something's wrong with her. She's on the restroom floor, and I think she hit herself or something. My mom goes to the restroom. She calmly pushes the door open, and I figure my sister had already picked herself up and sat on the toilet, and she's holding this side of her face. And my mom's like, are you okay? What's wrong? What happened? And my sister, still kind of like out of it, waking up, I guess, or something like that, she says, I don't know, I just hit myself. And so me and my mom get her from the restroom. We take her into the kitchen. We sit her down. My mom put something cold on her face because she had hit herself. So we ask her, we wait for her to come fully, to come in conscious fully, and we ask her, what happened? And my sister says that she had went to the restroom and she was going to wash her hands until she looked directly in the mirror of the restroom, and she said that she looked funny. She said she didn't look like herself. She doesn't really understand what happened at this point because she just fell. She collapsed and she ended up hitting herself on the sink, and that's what happened to half her face. And she hit the door because that was how she was trying to support herself. She was trying to lean against the door to keep her from really falling and hitting her head, even though she had already hit her face on the sink. And that was the noise that I had heard. My sister hadn't had any history of seizures or anything like that. She's never gone through anything like that. So absolutely the next day she does go to the ER and she tests out normal on everything. They found absolutely nothing wrong with her, and nothing like that has ever happened since then. Personally, I know what a seizure looks like. I've had friends with epilepsy, and this was not a seizure. It looked nothing like what I know a seizure is. This was a good possibility that something was trying to possess her. And around this time, I was already kind of used to, I don't want to say used to, because can you really get used to this kind of stuff? Probably not. But I was more adapted to it and adapted to protecting myself. And my sister does love God, but at the time she was going through a lot of things herself. So she could have been very vulnerable. I'm not sure if it was the fact that someone who loved and cared about her was there, especially someone who was very spiritual, and I do like to carry a lot of light with me. I like to think that when I carry light with me, I share it with all the people around me. I feel like if that was a possible possession, a spiritual attack of some kind, my presence there could have definitely stopped that. So everybody, those are the experiences of living in this house for almost 2 whole years. I will say this again because I feel like I have to say this in all of my videos, or at least most of them, that if you do not believe in paranormal ghost stories or the possessions or what any of these people saw, that is fine, but these are their stories. These are my stories. This is what I personally believe I experienced, and you guys can take it as entertainment, as something to just enjoy hearing. I do have more things to tell you guys, so it will be randomly, and if you want to be notified when I upload a new video, click the little bell button to be notified and subscribe to this channel. If you guys would like to share your stories with me, I would be more than happy to hear them. In fact, I have been getting so much feedback from these videos that all of my friends or random people who don't know me will message me and tell me their stories, or I've had a friend who's shown me their paranormal evidence, which was crazy, and this was last week, and I love seeing what you guys have or what you have to say about what you have experienced that is paranormal. If you think you have something really crazy or really intense, go ahead and share it with me, and I may just tell it. I need to get better at telling other people's stories because I was not used to that. I've only told one, and I was kind of unconfident with it because having to remember somebody else's story in writing or from what they have told me, it's a lot harder for me to remember. Go ahead and inbox me, comment, anything like that. I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!